Did you know that Allan Kardec, the man who uncovered the secrets of the afterlife, left behind a final directive, a major revelation for everyone who feels paralyzed by the thought of passing away? This isn't just a simple note, it's truly a game changer that can redefine your destiny and permanently alter your view on what actually occurs when your physical body ceases to function. If you've ever experienced that unsettling chill at night, that deep anxiety in your chest when contemplating the end, or if you've lost someone dear and are tormented by the question of their current whereabouts, this video won't just provide answers, it will empower you to face life without dread. I want you to share in the comments what your greatest fear about death is. I'll be sure to read every single one and leave a heart, so you know I stand with you on this. Because today, we are going to expose 3 fundamental truths that will compel you to view the spirit realm in an entirely new light. First, a documented instance of communication delivered through the Brazilian medium Chico Xavier, which clearly demonstrates that your consciousness remains fully intact following physical demise. Second, Allan Kardec's rational explanation of the process of disembodiment and why it's foolish to be afraid of it. And third, the accounts from Edgar Cayce, America's renowned sleeping prophet, which confirm with startling accuracy the core teachings of the Spiritist doctrine regarding the ongoing nature of existence. Allan Kardec, the intellectual powerhouse behind spiritualism, was no mere visionary. He was a relentless investigator, a teacher with an analytical mind who dedicated years to examining thousands of psychic communications before arriving at a conclusion that stunned the world. Death is not the terminus. It is simply the moment when your inner spirit is released from the confinement of your physical form. But hold on, because what I'm about to share next will blow your mind and completely overhaul what you thought you understood about the transition process. In 1976, a family in Mexico experienced an event so profound that Chico Xavier himself documented it, proving with undeniable clarity what Kardec had systematized a century earlier. Maria Helena Vasquez, a mother of 3 from Guadalajara, tragically lost her life in a car accident. Her husband, Roberto, consumed by grief and an urgent need to know if she was okay, traveled to Brazil to seek out the world's most respected medium. During the séance, Maria Helena communicated through Chico Xavier with a vividness that left everyone speechless. She shared intimate details of their home that only she could have known. She mentioned the secret hiding spot where she kept her grandmother's jewelry. She recalled the final conversation she had with her youngest child the night before the wreck. And most astonishingly, she revealed that she was actually present at her own memorial service, comforting her family from the spiritual plane. This is where Chico Xavier conveyed a life-altering realization. Maria Helena explained that at the instant of the accident, she felt as if she had momentarily drifted off to sleep. When she awoke, she found herself standing next to her inert body. Yet she felt more vibrant and alive than she ever had on Earth. She could see, hear, and think with a level of clarity she'd never experienced in her mortal life. There were no dramatic light tunnels or mystical visions. She simply continued to exist, but in a separate dimension. In just a few moments, I'll reveal the case that had the deepest impact on Allan Kardec regarding the continuity of awareness. But first, you must grasp why most people are terrified of dying. The anxiety about death isn't really a fear of death itself. It's a fear of the great unknown. It's the horror of believing that everything that defines you, your memories, your affections, your unique personality, will simply vanish into nothingness. Yet, Allan Kardec, through thousands of spirit messages, demonstrated that this assumption is humanity's biggest fallacy. In the Spirit's book, the superior spirits explain that your soul is connected to your body by a semi-material bond called the perispirit. This ethereal or spiritual body, which Edgar Cayce also described in his readings, is what ensures your survival as an individual after the physical body dies. This radically changes how you should approach living. If death is merely a shift in state, if your conscious mind persists unchanged, then every choice you make here has lasting consequences. The universal law of cause and effect, what Hindus term karma, is not just Eastern philosophy. It is a natural principle that Allan Kardec scientifically documented through Spiritism. Divaldo Franco, the Bahian medium who has channeled over 250 books, received a message from the spirit Joanna de Angelis, that discloses something extraordinary about the process of disembodiment. According to this enlightened entity, the moment of physical death is like the moment of birth, only in reverse. Just as a baby doesn't perish when leaving the womb, but is born into a new reality, the spirit doesn't die when leaving the physical shell, but is reborn into the spiritual world. Here is a fact that will profoundly affect you. Edgar Cayce, the American psychic, conducted over 14,000 documented psychic readings. In hundreds of them, he detailed precisely what happens at the moment of transition. His disclosures align perfectly with the principles codified by Allan Kardec in Spiritism. Cayce explained that during the transition, the silver cord that links the physical form to the spiritual body is severed, freeing the soul to continue its evolution on other planes of existence. But wait, because the next story proves that we not only survive death, but also retain our capacity for love and our desire to care for those we leave behind on Earth. In 1963, Chico Xavier received a communication from a spirit who had only passed away 3 days earlier in a train mishap in São Paulo. The spirit identified himself as Juano Pereira, a father who died deeply worried about the future of his young children. During the message, Juano provided specific directions about important papers he had hidden at home, including a life insurance policy his wife was unaware of. The family followed the spirit's guidance and located exactly what he had described. But the most remarkable aspect was that Juano explained that since his passing, he had been constantly with his family, safeguarding and guiding them from the spirit world. This fundamentally reshapes your understanding of the relationship between the living and the so-called departed. Allan Kardec, in the Medium's book, explains that discarnate spirits not only preserve their individuality, but also hold on to their ability to love and their wish to assist those they cared for in their physical life. Death does not separate true souls who love one another. It only separates them temporarily on the material plane. In a few moments, I'm going to share the specific method Kardec developed for safely communicating with spirits. But first, you must understand why this interaction is even possible. The universe is filled with dimensions that your 5 physical senses cannot detect. Kardec compared it to radio waves. You know that thousands of radio stations are broadcasting simultaneously in the air, but you can only tune in to one frequency at a time. Similarly, the spiritual realm coexists with the physical world, but you aren't normally able to tune in to that frequency. Mediums like Chico Xavier, Divaldo Franco, and Edgar Cayce possess the natural ability to synchronize with these spiritual frequencies and receive messages from beyond. However, Allan Kardec found that this ability can be developed safely by adhering to specific principles. Here is the framework that has changed the lives of millions. Kardec stipulated that to connect with spirits in a secure manner, 3 foundational principles must be followed. First, the communication must always have a higher purpose, such as offering comfort, education, or spiritual growth. Second, it must be conducted with seriousness and reverence, never for trivial curiosity or mere entertainment. Third, it must be shielded by prayer and by invoking the assistance of benevolent superior spirits. But pause here, because what I'm about to tell you will completely revolutionize your view on divine justice and reincarnation. In 1971, Chico Xavier channeled a letter from a spirit who had been wrongly executed in a Brazilian prison. The spirit explained that from the spirit world, he had come to realize that his unjust death was not a punishment, but an opportunity for advancement. He had learned to forgive those who falsely condemned him and was now working as a protective spirit for other innocent inmates. This message reveals a profound truth about the law of cause and effect that Kardec documented in the Spirit's book. There is no such thing as true injustice in the cosmos. What you perceive as unfairness from your limited earthly vantage point is revealed from the spiritual perspective as perfect opportunities for the soul's growth. Kardec explains that every spirit selects the trials they will face in each incarnation based on what they need to master in order to evolve. Edgar Cayce confirmed this teaching in hundreds of his readings. He explained that the soul, prior to being born, gains access to a comprehensive overview of the lessons it needs to learn and selects the circumstances that will best enable it to gain those experiences. But here is something about reincarnation that will really resonate with you. In 1974, a 6-year-old girl named Marta Lawrence from Buenos Aires, Argentina, began to recall with precise detail a previous lifetime where she had been a schoolteacher in a rural school in La Pampa. She described the school's name, the names of her students, and even the exact location where she had stored some personal belongings. Marta's parents, initially skeptical, decided to investigate. They traveled to the area the girl had described and found precisely what she had mentioned. The school had indeed existed and had a teacher who matched Marta's description, but who had passed away 30 years before the girl was born. This case, documented by Argentine researchers, confirms exactly what Allan Kardec taught about rebirth. In the Spirits book, the superior spirits explain that reincarnation is not just a belief system, but a natural law that facilitates the progressive evolution of the soul. Each lifetime is a chance for learning. Every experience is a lesson that moves you closer to spiritual perfection. Divaldo Franco, channeling the spirit Joanna de Angelis, disclosed that the period between incarnations varies depending on the spirit's level of development. Less evolved spirits may reincarnate relatively quickly, while more advanced spirits might spend centuries in the spirit world before choosing a new life. In a minute, I'll reveal Kardec's final caution about death. But first, you must understand why this knowledge is so critical for your life right now. If death is merely a transition, if we are reborn multiple times to progress, then every single day of your present life is a golden opportunity. It's not just this one life that is at stake, but your eternal spiritual advancement. Kardec, in his final writings before his passing, left a specific message for individuals who are fearful of death. He wrote that the fear of death is similar to the apprehension a prisoner feels before being released from their cell. The physical body is nothing more than a temporary enclosure for the spirit. Death is the emancipation. But here is Kardec's ultimate warning that will transform your life. In the Gospel, according to Spiritism, Kardec relays the words of a superior spirit who explains that the way we conduct our lives determines the nature of our passing. Those who live with love, kindness, and devotion to goodness experience a gentle and peaceful transition. Those who live in selfishness, hatred, and malice endure a turbulent and agonizing transition. Death is not something that happens to you. It is something you create through your daily choices. Edgar Cayce, in his readings on the afterlife, precisely confirmed this teaching. He explained that one's state of consciousness at the moment of death determines the level of the spiritual realm they access. A spirit that cultivated elevated thoughts and noble deeds automatically ascends to higher planes of existence. Chico Xavier, in one of his last communications before his passing, received a message from the spirit Emmanuel that perfectly summarizes this lesson. Emmanuel stated that death acts like a mirror, reflecting exactly who we were in life. We cannot trick death. It reveals our genuine spiritual condition. But wait, there is something more you need to know about the continuation of consciousness. In 1980, Divaldo Franco channeled an extraordinary communication from the spirit Bezerra de Menezes, the doctor of the poor, who became a great spiritual leader in Brazil. Bezerra explained that from the spirit world, he understood that physical life is like a single day of class at the University of the Soul. Every challenge we face, every hardship we conquer, every act of love we perform, is a lesson that qualifies us for higher levels of existence. Death is not the conclusion of school. It is merely the end of a semester, after which we continue our studies in more advanced dimensions. This perspective completely changes how you view suffering and difficulties. Kardec explains that suffering is not a divine punishment, but an opportunity for expansion. Every tear we shed, every pain we endure with faith and patience, purifies us and brings us closer to spiritual perfection. Edgar Cayce, in his readings on karma and rebirth, taught that the struggles we face in this life are ideal chances to balance past mistakes and develop virtues that we were lacking. The soul is never faced with more than it can handle, and always has the opportunity to convert hardship into profound understanding. Here is an insight that will shift your perspective on loss and saying goodbye. In 1983, a woman named Carmen Delgado from Medellin, Colombia, lost her 22-year-old son in a motorcycle accident. Devastated by the pain, she traveled to Brazil to consult Chico Xavier. During the session, her son communicated through the medium and explained that he had continued to exist on the spiritual plane, that he loved her just as much as before, and that he was working to help other young people who, like him, had passed prematurely. The son revealed that from the spirit world he had realized that his death was not an accident, but part of a plan his soul had accepted before being born. His mission had been fulfilled, though in a way that the human mind could not immediately comprehend. This communication completely transformed Carmen's outlook on her son's death. Instead of viewing his passing as an irreparable loss, she began to see it as a graduation. Her son had finished his earthly course and had ascended to a higher level of existence. This did not erase her sorrow, but it gave her a sense of purpose and hope that helped her continue living meaningfully. Divaldo Franco, channeling the spirit Joanna de Angelis, explains that the pain of separation is natural and necessary. It confirms the depth of our affection. But when we realize that the separation is only temporary, that we will eventually reunite with our loved ones in the spirit realm, the pain evolves into hope. In a few moments, I'll reveal the practical steps Kardec recommended for preparing for death without fear. But first, you need to understand something crucial about prayer and communicating with spirits. Allan Kardec discovered that prayer is the safest and most effective means of communicating with benevolent, superior spirits. In the Medium's book, he explains that sincere prayer creates a vibration that naturally attracts enlightened spirits and repels lower entities. Edgar Cayce confirmed this teaching in his readings. He explained that prayer is not merely a request, but a state of alignment with the higher frequencies of the universe. When we pray with sincerity and faith, we automatically connect with the spiritual guides who protect and direct us. But here are the practical guidelines Kardec developed to conquer the fear of death. First, educate yourself. Read the Spirit's book and the Medium's book to rationally grasp what happens after death. Knowledge eliminates the fear of the unknown. Second, practice charity. Kardec taught that charity is the most vital virtue for spiritual progress. Those who dedicate their lives to doing good have nothing to fear after they pass. Third, develop a rational faith. Faith should not be blind, but founded on knowledge and verifiable experience. Investigate cases of spiritual communication, research psychic phenomena, and draw your own conclusions. Fourth, engage in daily prayer. Maintain a consistent connection with the superior spirits. Ask for guidance, protection, and the strength to face life's trials. Fifth, live each day as if it were your last, yet plan as if you will live eternally. This duality will help you value every moment while preparing for eternity. Chico Xavier, in his final years of life, perfectly embodied this lesson. He was never afraid of death because he knew precisely what awaited him. He had received thousands of communications from spirits who described the beauty and tranquility of the spiritual world. When he finally passed in 2002, witnesses reported that his last words were ones of joy and appreciation. He had completed his mission on Earth and was ready to continue his work on the spiritual plane. But wait, there is something more you need to know about spiritual evolution. Divaldo Franco, now over 90 years old, continues to channel books and lead conferences on the Spiritist doctrine. In a recent communication, the spirit Joanna de Angelis disclosed that humanity is entering a new era of spiritual advancement. Psychic phenomena are becoming more widespread. More people are developing latent psychic abilities. More children are being born with recollections of past lives. This is not arbitrary. It is part of the divine blueprint for humanity's progression. Edgar Cayce, in his predictions about the future of mankind, foresaw exactly this. He explained that in the 20th and 21st centuries, humanity would begin to awaken to its true spiritual nature. The divisions between the physical and spiritual worlds would become increasingly blurred. Here is the final realization that will change how you view your life's purpose. You are not here by chance. Your soul deliberately selected this particular lifetime at this precise moment in history to accomplish a specific mission. Every event you encounter, every person you meet, every obstacle you overcome is part of a perfect plan designed for your spiritual development. Kardec explains that every soul has a mission to fulfill, from the most ordinary to the most complex. The ultimate objective of all missions is the same: to advance towards spiritual perfection through wisdom and unconditional love. Once you grasp this, death completely loses its power to terrorize you. It simply becomes the point where you submit your final report and receive your next assignment. It is a natural transition in your everlasting journey toward ultimate realization. Divaldo Franco, channeling the spirit Bezerra de Menezes, teaches that the best way to prepare for death is to live completely, to love deeply, to serve wholeheartedly, to learn continuously, and to forgive fully. When you live in this manner, death becomes a cause for celebration, not a catastrophe. Edgar Cayce, in his later readings, revealed that the soul that lived with purpose does not experience death as an ending, but as a new beginning. It is the moment when, at last, the soul can shed the limitations of the physical shell and express its true spiritual essence without constraint. But here is an insight that will impact your current life. If you genuinely believe that death is only a transition, if you truly understand that your soul is eternal, then every day of your present life becomes infinitely more valuable. Not because it's the only life you have, but because it is your current opportunity for profound growth. Kardec taught that time is the most precious commodity we possess in the physical world. In the spiritual realm, time operates differently. Here, every moment is a unique opportunity to evolve that will never be replicated in the exact same way. Chico Xavier, in one of his most profound messages, received a communication from the Spirit Emmanuel, who stated, "Do not waste a single day of your earthly existence. Every day is a gift your soul gave itself to learn, to love, and to serve. When you pass, the only things you can carry with you are the knowledge you acquired and the love you shared." This outlook completely changes your relationship with time, with people, and with your experiences. Instead of living in apprehension of the future, you live with thankfulness for the present. Instead of regretting the past, you embrace the lessons you learned. Instead of fearing death, you view it as the moment when you can finally evaluate everything you accomplished in this lifetime. Divaldo Franco, in his lectures on death and reincarnation, explains that the evolved spirit sees death not as an end, but as a liberation. It is the moment when they can finally be reunited with their departed loved ones, review their earthly experiences, and plan their subsequent reincarnation. But wait, there is one more thing you must know about communicating with spirits. Allan Kardec established very clear guidelines for safe spiritual communication. In the medium's book, he explains that not every communicating spirit is a superior one. Some are less evolved spirits who may provide inaccurate or even harmful information. Therefore, it is essential to cultivate spiritual discernment. Superior spirits always communicate with love, wisdom, and genuine humility. They never give commands, they never predict specific dates, and they never demand adoration. Their objective is always to educate, comfort, and elevate. Edgar Cayce, in his readings on spiritual communication, taught that the best defense against lower spirits is to maintain a pure heart and a mind focused on serving the greater good. Lower spirits cannot approach those who vibrate at high frequencies. Here is the key to beneficial and secure spiritual communication. First, always begin with a prayer requesting protection and guidance from the superior spirits. Second, always maintain an attitude of humility and a desire to learn. Third, meticulously evaluate everything you receive. If a message does not promote love, wisdom, or spiritual progress, it is not from an enlightened spirit. Chico Xavier adhered to these guidelines throughout his entire mediumistic career. He never channeled a message that had not been previously approved by his spiritual mentors. This rigorous discipline allowed him to maintain the extraordinary quality of his communications for over 60 years. Divaldo Franco, following the same principle, has maintained a consistent dialogue with the spirit Joanna de Angelis for over 50 years. This superior entity has guided not only his mediumistic work, but also his personal and spiritual development. In a minute, I'll give you Allan Kardec's final message for those who are afraid to die. But before that, you must understand something fundamental about spiritual progress. Spiritual evolution is not an automatic process. It demands conscious effort, discipline, and commitment. Every day you have the choice between advancing or stagnating. Every action you take, every thought you entertain, every word you speak contributes to your progress or your regression. Kardec explains that spiritual growth depends on the spirit's free will. God granted us the ability to choose our path to perfection consciously. Edgar Cayce, in his readings on the soul's evolution, taught that every soul has the potential to attain spiritual perfection, but the time it takes is dependent on the choices it makes in each life. Some souls evolve rapidly, others require many more incarnations. Here is Allan Kardec's ultimate message for you. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, Kardec conveys the words of a superior spirit who states, "Do not fear death because death does not exist. What you call death is merely the rebirth into a higher form of life. Only fear a life lived poorly, because that is what truly causes suffering after the transition." This is Kardec's final caution for those who dread passing away. It is not death that should concern you, but the quality of the life you are living. Every day you squander in selfishness, hatred, or indifference to the suffering of others is a day you are creating difficulties for your spiritual future. But every day you live with love, generosity, and compassion for all beings is a day you are building a peaceful transition and a bright future in the spirit realm. Chico Xavier, in his later years, often said that he had lived each day as if it were his last, but also as if it were the first of a new eternity. This perspective allowed him to maintain joy and optimism, even during the most challenging times. Divaldo Franco, now in his 90s, continues to live by the same philosophy. Every day is a chance to serve, to love, and to learn something new. The approach of death does not sadden him, but motivates him to appreciate every moment. Edgar Cayce, before his passing, said that he had learned that death is simply like changing clothes. The soul removes the worn-out physical body and puts on the renewed spiritual body. It is a natural and beautiful process, not something to be dreaded. Here is the practical application of everything you have learned. Starting today, begin each day with a prayer of gratitude for the opportunity to live. End each day with an honest assessment of how you utilize that time. Did you love, serve, learn, forgive? Live each day as if it were your last, yet plan as if you will live forever. This paradox will help you appreciate every moment while simultaneously preparing for eternity. And always remember the words of Allan Kardec. Spiritual knowledge is not just meant to comfort you after death, but to transform you during life. If this content resonated with you, tell me in the comments which revelation impacted you the most. I will mark every comment with a heart to celebrate your spiritual awakening. Remember, you are not here merely to survive. You are here to transcend. Death is only the moment when you finally remember who you have always been, an infinite being of light, temporarily experiencing the blessing of being human. Tired of uncertainty? Allan Kardec's teachings in our ebook will revolutionize your perspective and illuminate your path. Don't wait. Click the link in the description and get yours now.